I'm Celine. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're discussing the books I read in February, which was a little while ago now. So I started off the month with The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros, which for me was a 4.5 out of 5. I really loved it. I took so many notes, underlined so many lines. It's a collection of vignettes, all kind of following the character of Esperanza, who's a young Latina girl growing up in Chicago, and the stories are just really accessible. The book is meant to be for everyone, whether you're an avid reader or someone who just came home after a long day of work and just want to read something. So it really succeeds in doing that with seemingly simplistic writing. I know a lot of people have described it as middle grade, but I really would have to contest that. I think it can be middle grade, but it can also be for adults as well. I think the language is so beautiful. She uses so many beautiful metaphors and similes. She writes so beautifully that I think it just kind of transcends any kind of like age group. And then also I think some of the concepts that she touches on and some of the subjects she touches on, like for example sexual assault, I think are dealt with really well in a way that maybe you wouldn't fully understand it in middle school, for example, but as an adult you can kind of see through the subtext or really understand the situation more. So would really recommend that book. I really enjoyed it. Next thing I read was Lady Windermere's Fan by Oscar Wilde. So it's a play, and I'd give it a 2.5 out of 5. It's just really not his best work, I think. So the story kind of follows this wife, Lady Windermere, who all of a sudden thinks that her husband is cheating on her with a mysterious older woman, and quid pro quos and chaos kind of ensues. That's kind of all I can say without giving the story away. It was funny, but it definitely didn't leave a lasting impression on me. It's not his best plot, it's not his best writing, and honestly it's not his best work at all. If you do want a great Oscar Wilde piece of literature, may I recommend probably one of the most famous ones, The Importance of Being Earnest, because oh my god, that shit slaps. It's so funny and it still rings true to this day, which is insane. Anyway, next I read Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo, which is a 4 out of 5 for me. It's a novel comprised of a collection of stories about Black women, girls, and non-binary folks, and just follows them through different ages, different experiences, different areas, completely different walks of life. And it's just really nice to get all of these perspectives at once, and it did this really fun thing where it was kind of like Love Actually or like a Zadie Smith novel where all of a sudden all the stories kind of connect, but it did it in an extra layer where it goes like chapter 1 and you've got 3 stories that relate to each other, chapter 2 and then 3 stories that relate to each other, and then, well, I should say like chapters or parts instead of stories, but and then at the end you see how they all tie together, which is really cool. Yeah, it was recommended to me because I really love Zadie Smith, and it definitely reminded me of N.W. and White Teeth by Zadie Smith. So if you liked this book, definitely give those a try, and vice versa. Next I read The Second Wife by Rebecca Fleet, which is a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I really enjoyed reading it. It's kind of like a thriller mystery about Natalie, who's a man's second wife, don't remember his name, and a fire engulfs their house, and the husband's daughter believes that she saw a man leave the house the night of the fire, and Natalie's like, no way. It's like insinuated that there's things about Natalie's past that the husband doesn't know, and it's coming back to haunt her now, and it takes you on this insane ride that, like, I can't even begin to explain what it is without giving anything away, but it was really well written. There were lots of elements where I felt like, oh, I don't know, like I'm kind of suspicious of this thing. And then when I ended up being right and I looked back at the language that was used in those parts where I felt like, oh, I feel kind of suspicious now, it was phrased so well. Like, for example, someone being like, I don't know, there's something about this. So I don't know, maybe that's obvious. But I feel like in the moment, the way it was written was just subtle enough without being like, hey, look, it's a misdirect or something like that. Really enjoyed it. It was a great read. And next I read On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. And oh my god. You guys, it's a 5 out of 5. So the story follows a Vietnamese American immigrant boy's life in Hartford, Connecticut. Gilmore Girl fans, where are you at? And it's so beautiful. It's kind of genre bending where it's very poetic and still like fictional. And it's kind of shown to you as like a letter to his mother, and it's just so beautifully written, and it's an experience that I personally know nothing about. I'm neither American nor Vietnamese, and I'm also not a boy. So, but yeah, just so many things, even things relating to the early 2000s that I just didn't realize. And weirdly enough, there was a link to The Second Wife, not an overt one, just like a mention of monarch butterflies that was mentioned in The Second Wife and then in this one. So that was kind of weird. And then, yeah, just devastating, beautiful, just really broke my heart, but also made me feel really great in the same way. It's definitely one of my favorites, and I definitely want to read more from Ocean Vuong. Lastly, to close off the month of February, I read The Chain by Adrienne McKinty, and it's a 4.5 out of 5. So The Chain is like a thriller, mystery, horror almost. Basically, it follows this scenario. So our main character, Rachel, her daughter gets kidnapped, and she gets a call that says, girl, you have to send us all this money and kidnap another kid, and you can't go to the police. And then once you do that, you'll get your kid back. And then once you've done that, I can get my kid back, and so on and so forth. And so that's the chain. I think Noelle Gallagher, who's, I'll put her link in the description below. I think she was the one who described it as kind of like It Follows, the movie, where it's kind of got that idea of like you're protected or you're absolved if you do the thing to someone else. So you keep passing it along, and it was really, really good, really suspenseful. I couldn't put it down. I was so stressed. It's definitely a parent's worst nightmare. Basically, if your kid gets kidnapped, you have to kidnap someone else's kid just to get yours back. That's the general premise. So absolutely terrifying. And it gave me nightmares. I actually had a dream about it where it was the same concept, and even in the dream I thought, oh my god, I shouldn't have read that book. It pushed the universe to put me in this situation. It was probably just my subconscious being like, girl, you shouldn't have read that book, you big dummy. So yeah, really well written, really fun, super suspenseful. I liked the characters too. And weirdly enough, this book, it might have mentioned butterflies, maybe not, but it definitely mentioned the opioid crisis, which was also brought up in On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. So learned something. Mostly in On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, when they mention the opioid crisis, they really bring it up in a way that I was like, whoa, was not aware of that. Not aware of all the intricacies and how many lives it took. And as someone who was, you know, fairly conscious in the early 2000s, that was kind of surprising. But yeah, so The Chain mentions the opioid crisis as well. So it was kind of eerie. I've just been having a lot of books kind of mentioning the same things, like successively. I don't know. It's weird. Also, as a side note, my film The Museum, which is about sexual violence against women, is playing in the Global Girl Film Festival, March 18th to March 21st, along with a bunch of other amazing films by other amazing women. It's also been nominated for the Best Student Film Award, and I'm really honored and excited. And yeah, so if you want to, and if you have time and 15 pounds, because UK, then definitely attend. I also got to take part in a really cool Q&A about films on sexual violence against women with some other amazing women filmmakers whose films I'm so excited to see. They were so amazing to talk to, and so were all of the people at Global Girl Media Film Festival. So yeah, if you have time, please do check it out. It would mean a lot to me. Let me know what you end up thinking. And of course, if you read the books that I mentioned, please let me know what you think, because I'd love to hear that. So that is my February wrap-up. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts on these books, what you've been reading, what content you'd like to see, and yeah.